City Council, July the 11th, 2022. It's now 6:30, 30 seconds. And I did cut my mic on just then. Should I go back and repeat it, I guess? I'd like to call to order the work session for Loganville City Council, July the 11th, 2022. It's now 45 seconds past 6:30, and we will get started. And we'll go down and I'd like to call the meeting to order, and then we'll go to Planning and Development Committee first.
Thank you, Mayor. We have something that we need to talk about, and Tim is the expert, so I'm going to call him to the podium to let us know what's going on.
Mayor and Council, what we're asking for is the adoption of Appendix F to the Residential Building Code to provide for radon gas control measures. The current building code we're in is a 2018, and it has the city or Walton County in level 2, and the Department of Community Affairs and the University of Georgia Extension Office has put us in category 1. So what we're asking for is an additional measure to the radon gas control. We already do 2 measures, which is the 4 inches of gravel and the vapor barrier under the concrete slabs. And this would add a relief pipe that runs from the concrete through the roof of the building to let the radon gas escape through the building instead of going into the building. You don't have any questions?
And you got it in your
Concerns?
packet, the information about it, and I think Skip's done some research on it too, as far as causing cancer and all of that, so.
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised when I started, because I was like, where does radon come from?
Yep.
Like, I had no idea. And so it's naturally in our soil, and it's the breakdown, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, uranium, thorium, and radium. And then when it breaks down in our soil, it produces a gas.
Especially in granite.
Right, and it's
And
saying that it
Loganville is
builds up
slap
in
full of
the,
granite.
it builds up in the crawl spaces in the basements, particularly in houses,
Not as much crawl spaces, because crawl spaces has ventilation,
okay?
so you can get cross air through the crawl space, but mainly slabs. When you get cracks in your slabs, it'll come up through the ground, through the cracks in the slab, and get into your house.
Right, that's what I was reading, and I was looking at the literature. I was actually quite surprised that Walton County, 36% or more of our houses are in the, as it says, 4 picocuries per cubic liter.
Right, fours.
It's like, that's
the
apparently that's
threshold.
bad.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so we're like Walton County is we have 36% of our homes that,
Correct. And like I said, we already do the 4 inches of gravel under the slab and the vapor barrier, and this is just one more layer of
so
protection.
it'd just be a pipe to allow those,
The gases to vent through the house instead of into the house.
you know, it's the second leading cause of lung cancer
Right.
behind
And this
smoking is the radon.
This will be more protection for the residents and minimal cost to the builders, so.
The big deal is you don't know it's there. The original Lions Club here in Loganville have been selling these kits for about 4 or 5 years, $10 a piece. The one that started it is one of our well-known citizens, and he said, well, heck, I might as well get my house checked. And, you know, he knew if it was up to 4, he'd be okay. They don't mediate if it's 4 or less. His was somewhere, I think he told me, like 25. So we had to get somebody out there to mediate his house, which means you have to drill into the foundation and vent the stuff out. How many of you ever heard of somebody that's had lung cancer, you say to yourself, well, he's never smoked or she's never smoked? Well, this could be, because it's the second leading cause of lung cancer in the country. And this is a radon test that Dan Curry brought me by today. That's what they sell for $10. And you just set it up somewhere in the house. It registers whatever particles are in the air. You send it in, I think, and they tell you what the status is. So, interesting. But we'll be ahead of the game if we do this. if we don't do this, we'll probably have to do it in a couple of years, you think?
Correct.
Yeah. So
Any other
maybe-
questions by the council to Tim? Okay.
That's all
Well-
I have.
If everybody is in agreement, I'd just like to go ahead and put this on the consent agenda, or do we need something we don't need to vote on, we can just put on the consent agenda? Okay, all right,
Thank you.
Consent agenda it is.
huh?
Consent agenda it is.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. And Mayor, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. We'll move to Finance and Human Resource Committee.
Thank you, Mr.
Ann?
Mayor. In your package, you will see a breakdown of the renewal for the property casual insurance. This covers everything from general liability, automobile, crime, property, inland marine, which is contractors, equipment, et cetera, it's not a boat. Law enforcement liability, employee practices liability. The renewal is a little bit higher this year, but it's $279,982. And if you look in your packet, it's this green spreadsheet. It's right after the rate on information. So it looks like our general liability premium went down just a teeny bit. Automobile went up, crime is the same, property is up a little, the inland marine is up a little bit, law enforcement is up, the insurance for law enforcement, et cetera. We also are carrying cyber liability and a cyber surplus lines tax. So, anybody have any questions or anything they want to know about?
I do. How often do we shop our insurance around?
It's a Christie question.
Whenever y'all tell us you're interested in it.
And do we have a local agent, or who is this that we use that we get our insurance through?
They're at a great.
Travelers, yeah, they're a local agent.
Okay.
Any other questions? Would anybody object to this going on consent?
Well, I believe we've got some concerns about we're not shopping it around enough. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I mean, that's what I was just wondering, how often we shop it around, and, you know, if we're, for the same coverage, if we could save the taxpayers money, that's my concern, but,
They actually reshopped it about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Because we were with a different company and now we're with with Travelers. They kind of did that on their own, for us, and that was the best coverage and the best price bang for the buck was through the company that they're with now.
okay, thank you. No, I just shop my own personal insurance around every few years. I was just wondering how often we do that as a city. Thank
So
you.
if the council vote for it this year, are you saying, or are we saying that we'd like to have it checked before we do this next year? That'd be 3 years.
I mean, it can never hurt to shop
I'm thinking.
anything around.
And we do have a, $5 million umbrella policy. Is that enough?
That's not that much, is it?
Yeah, it is
says,
not
I
much.
don't believe it's that much.
It's in a-
Is it
yeah, it's
5
on the-
million?
Umbrella
The umbrella's
excludes
5
cyber
million.
liability, 5 million.
I mean, it's a lot of money.
Well, it's a
The
lot
more
of
we go,
money,
the
but
more
you
it's
can
gonna
also have
cost.
a
Yeah.
lot of liability out there too. Just a thought.
I don't have any issue shopping it around in the future. I do know that it's not like small business or car. This is some pretty specific insurance that not everybody can handle.
That is true. There's not that many that
Carriers
handle
that do it.
this
That's
type
right.
of insurance. So, it's not like you can just go to State Farm or Nationwide. You have to have a agent that specifically deals in this line of business.
This is into effect as of July 1, 2022, correct? So we're a little behind on this one to shop it?
Yes, on this one we are, yes.
Okay. Would you be agreeable to asking to shop next time but putting it on consent this year? Is that okay? All right. Anybody else have any issue with putting it on consent? Okay. Then if you could put in the minutes that we'll shop it, Christie, I know it's your area anyway. We'll start shopping it next year, but we'll consent it this year.
Okay. Consent agenda for everybody?
Yep.
Everybody okay with that? Okay, very good.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Ann. We'll move to Public Safety Committee report. Jay Boland.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to call up Chief Lowry. We discussed this on the other side of the room before council, and I wanted Chief Lowry to come up. Let's do this together. Currently, we have one SRO officer at Loganville High School. That's Dustin Peterson, right?
Yes.
And we have Joseph Cantrell helping out?
Yes, Joseph is the lieutenant over that.
Okay.
that area.
And the Board of Education has come up with, was it 110 or 55,000?
Well, they pay 55,000 per school. It came after, quite honestly, the more recent school shooter incidents have unfortunately been in elementary schools.
Yes, they have.
So they want to make sure that every elementary school in Walton County has a dedicated school resource officer assigned. We have been doing it since the advent of this program in the city of Loganville in 2006, when it was taken over from the sheriff's office. Originally, of course, the middle school was still active, and we had 2 SROs that were funded by the school board, and the city has always funded the unit supervisor. Of course, when that middle school moved outside of our jurisdiction, then we lost part of that, and they've only been funding the high school because at that point in time, there were no SROs in any of the elementary schools. So this school year that's just ended, in light of this additional threat to elementary schools, we've been covering it with Lieutenant Cantrell, which quite honestly is not ideal because it doesn't leave him available to cover things at the high school. Even though they work, the school year, they still have to go to court, they still have to go take warrants, juvenile complaints, they have to get their training in and all of those things, and we really can't leave that school uncovered. So this would, what we're asking to do is accept that additional funding, which would be a total of 110,000 rather than the 55 that we've been getting, and at the same time request your approval to add that additional SRO as an authorized position under the police department. We will still continue to fund the lieutenant that supervises that unit, and that will allow him, he will primarily be at the high school, and quite honestly, with the number of students that are in that high school now, it should have 2 SROs. So it will basically take us back to where we were at prior to the middle school moving outside the city limits is what it will do.
And any concerns that the citizens may have about our staffing, can you touch on that?
Yes, we have actually, upon the approval of the council for this position, we have on staff now an officer, a very experienced officer, who has previously worked as a school resource officer for the sheriff's office. That's what he was doing when we hired him. He was actually requested, if this is approved, that we assign him. He is definitely on board with doing that. And the funding that we're asking for here, the approval to do this budget amendment, will backfill his position in patrol, because we don't want to lose that position. Now, where we're at on that, right now today, we have 2 open patrol positions. We have a board that interviews people. Assistant Chief Warnack is leading that now. They did some interviews last week that went very, very well. He's got 2 certified officer candidates that still got some background work to do, and polygraph exams and psychological, all those things that we do. But we're very optimistic that both of these guys will go through that process without a problem, and we'll be able to fill those spots. Doing this will create 1 additional opening in patrol. While they were interviewing for those spots, in anticipation of this, we went ahead and did some additional interviews, and we do have a extremely promising candidate that is not currently certified, would have to go to the police academy, but the timing would actually work pretty well with this. So if nothing strange happens, and I hate to even say that out loud, But we're very optimistic that we're gonna be at full staff, for the first time in 5 years,
Okay.
a long time. So, knock on wood, everybody.
So this would be for $110,000, not to exceed $139,000.
Well, the 110 will be it will be an additional 55,000 in revenue from what but this all came about after the budget process. This
Okay.
is very recent. So we would need to amend that. Tell me if I'm saying it wrong, Dave. We need to amend that and also give, him the approval to make the changes to our budget with the not to exceed 139,000 to backfill
Okay.
that position.
All right. Any
So-
questions from the council?
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
So if we don't do this, we don't get the 55,000, correct?
No, sir.
The additional
No,
55,000?
sir. No, sir.
Okay. Would you be able to have this person have an office in the elementary school?
They will
That's
have an
your goal?
office, yes, they will have. They will,
That's
it's
gonna be
already there.
very visible.
It's already there. It's already there.
Okay, Ann?
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand the
Okay.
budget piece of it.
All right.
So the county's going to contribute another 55 towards the officer,
That's
towards
right.
the program.
That's right.
Obviously, that's not what the officer earns. That's
No,
just towards
They
the,
pay a certain
They just
dollar
pay a
amount
fee.
per school.
correct.
Yes,
And
that's
so we're
right.
going to move an existing officer into the SRO position.
Yes,
And then are we creating a new position? Is this an additional
Yes.
staff?
that's correct.
Okay,
If we don't do that, we're going to short ourselves in our authorized patrol strength, which we really don't want to do.
so are we
don't need
creating
to
a
do.
new SRO position or a new officer position in the budget?
It's
think
a
you're gonna be-
SRO
I
position.
think you're gonna be taking a person out of the regular fleet
Yes.
and put him in SRO, which will leave another spot.
Yes.
for the regular
We're creating
patrol.
an SRO because right now that doesn't exist. We have 2 SRO positions. One is funded by, or partially funded by the school board. The other has always been fully funded by the city. So we're creating another SRO position that 55,000 of it will be funded by the school board.
Okay, so we're just using the opportunity to create another position.
But that's the only way I can do this.
Okay.
I can't do it without it.
Okay.
I don't have the personnel.
Okay, so we're just adding, we're adding a body
Yes.
in the budget?
Yes.
Not,
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am. That's
just-
correct. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
that's fine. I
That's-
just want to make sure I understood. Thank you, Chief.
And Chief Lowry wants to make sure that the SRO officers remain with Loganville, not the sheriff's office.
I agree. No, I'm completely fine with that. I just wanted to-
And then I had a question, because
Yes, ma'am.
I may have misunderstood Danny. Did you say we will also have to be providing a car for this, so that will be also an additional budget item?
No, that's all included in the.
That's all included,
the
okay.
139.
139 covers.
Covers everything.
Salaries and benefits
Okay.
and equipment.
Benefits.
Okay, and then my
equipment, all of that.
other question I had was, I was reading in here something about their time off for training and everything. Since we're taking an officer that's a patrol officer now, but he's been an SRO in the
Yes, ma'am.
past.
He's already certified.
Okay, so he doesn't have to go through any more
No,
training or
ma'am.
anything?
He'll start, if this is approved, he'll start within the week before school starts.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We
But you
good for
probably will.
consent on that?
You probably will have to train the person you may bring into the force.
Yes, the patrol officers, yes, we would probably, if we are able to hire who we're anticipating, he'll have to go to the police academy and field training and all that, yes, sir.
Consent, everybody, you good?
The second part of this is we are, with the approval of the council on this, we also would like to get the council's approval for the mayor to sign the new agreement for this school year, which will reflect these changes from 55 to 110 and add this second officer into the wording. Other than that, there's no change in the agreement at all.
If everybody's okay with it, I'd rather us bring this up as a separate item on Thursday and take a vote. We had a lot of controversy the last time we got into SROs, and the threat has been there at the elementary schools, the last few threats. I've had it on my agenda for a couple, 3 weeks, giving it some thought.
We all agree.
Well, I know, but you mentioned something about putting it on consent agenda.
Yeah.
I'd rather vote on it,
Why?
wouldn't y'all?
No, we want to
For the
consent.
public.
We're all good. Public's good.
How are y'all at the other end of the?
Well, y'all vote.
good.
No?
Consent.
Yeah,
Y'all's vote.
yeah, that's consent. We're good.
That's good. Try and keep you out of trouble.
No trouble. Well, JB knows what trouble looks like. This ain't trouble.
You tell them.
Anything else tonight, Jay? That's it, Mayor. Okay. We will now move to Public Works and Facilities. Melanie Long.
I have nothing tonight. I'll have a few things to report on Thursday.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And now we'll move to Public Utilities and Transportation. Bill Duvall for the rest of the meeting.
That's not true. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So let's see. I do have a few things today. First one is you all received in your packet the letter. You all know we've been coordinating with the State Route 20 project for a long time, and the department wants, Georgia DOT wants a commitment from us from that. We've come up with a good alternative by relocating Tommy Lee Fuller and providing access for all the vehicles that are coming from that direction. And anyway, all this letter says is, and it's a letter, and I think Danny's going to just get it tweaked a little bit because of the way the date's in here. But all we want to do is just show our support for this project and that we are supported toward doing this this intersection. Is there any questions on that?
Does this need my signature or everybody's? Okay. Okay.
So, that's okay, we'll put that on consent.
Well, I think all of us want Tommy Lee Fuller fixed,
Yeah.
if we can.
No, we are. It's not if. Thank you. Second item is, so we had an emergency situation where we had a problem with the mixers in the septic pond, and Brandon had to go out and get these new drive shaft mixers. So the ones that we had out there was not they're not fully functional. They were top water mixers, and so we had to go ahead and get this replacement for it. And these are actually have more horsepower than what was out there. It's actually the right equipment for what we're using. So this is really, it was an emergency, like I said, but it was kind of a housekeeping item to say that, look, to make sure we have our approval. I'll talk with Danny as soon as it happened, but you want to add anything, Danny?
No, this is what I text y'all, I believe Saturday or Sunday, a couple weeks ago, when it failed. Without this, the plant doesn't run for the septic haulers. And it was already purchased, equipment was purchased, just need to go ahead and ratify the vote on Thursday night to approve this.
Right. And, of course, this is also, we had also planned, back when we were putting together that grant for doing works at the plant, this was part of what we planned in it as well. But anyway, so what the cost of this was $32,594. Just want to make sure everybody's okay, put that on consent.
Yeah, Bill, and I think Melanie was, in the text, we were talking about sending one of those back to be refurbed and being held for the
So,
future.
I'm going to introduce Mike McDaniel. He's the plant operator. He's in charge of the plant. I don't know if y'all have ever met him. But
Hey, Mike.
yes, he can tell you, Brandon, I hope that's okay. He can tell you anything. I believe we sent one of these motors.
Yeah, we did. We sent one of them back to, we have to do this thing pretty often on these things. It's kind of a tough application for these aerators. And we have to do this every so often. And when we do, this time we sent one back and it was about right around $12,000 to have one of these motors rebuilt. A brand new aerator was it's just the motor without the pontoon or anything, was about $21,000. So we started doing some homework, and we decided these downdraft mixers are just hardier mixers. They last a whole lot. They're just better mixers for what we need, because this stuff is very harsh, and we have so much downtime with these aerators. Every so often, about every 6 months to a year, you'll have to take one of them down. And these motors right here are sealed motors. You're not even supposed to even grease them for 3 years. And so we losing these things about every year, year and a half. And whenever you do, it's very costly. So like I said, we've done a little homework, and the downdraft mixers are the correct application for what we need in here.
And just so everyone knows, where this septic dumps, septic is harsher environment than your regular sewer, different chemicals. And the septic that we used was the old plant from the 90s.
Correct, right.
And we're using equipment from them, that's why it's not the same, but now we're actually buying equipment that's made for this.
That's right.
So, the motto of use it up, wear it out, make do or do without, that was what was being used, now we're trying to change that.
We're just trying to get this thing right.
Do we need to change this figure to include another 12,000
No.
if we haven't it rebuilt in your
No.
budget?
Well, we could have it rebuilt, and then I guess we could have one on the, a shelf if anything did happen to go. It's in kind of a bad spot, and they do get lightning hit every once in a while as well. So to have one on the shelf would not be a bad idea.
We bought two, and then we are rebuilding one.
We are
So we will have,
rebuilding one.
the old one's on the shelf if something happens.
Yeah,
But we're not, the other one was not,
That's right.
according to y'all, was not worth rebuilding.
that's right. And the one that you're talking about, the guy that inspected it, he says, I wouldn't rebuild it.
But if one of these new ones go out, so, because it says here we have a 24-month material and workmanship, they would come out and fix it if there is something wrong?
That's right.
Okay, so we're looking for the 32,594
Correct.
on Thursday night, right? You don't need the 12.
I wouldn't think so.
You wanna see if they can consent?
Yeah, consent.
But it's already in order.
It's already
Yeah.
ordered.
So, yes, consent would be nice.
Thank you.
Everybody okay with consent?
Yeah.
All righty.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Next item, make sure I'm staying on order here. So the next item is the purchase of 3 hydrants down for 81. So we've run our new line, we've connected into the water line there at 81 in Tom Brewer, then there's a 6-inch that's being decommissioned by Walton County. We're kind of reusing parts from that, and with these 3 new fire hydrants, we'll actually be able to place fire hydrants that work out there in front of Meridian, Maxi Price, and also down in front of Terra. And the cost of this is $9,340.34.
And we have Mike Morrell, who's the new water foreman in the back there. His name is AKA the Bull. So if you have a water main break, he's your man that fixes them all time of the day. Any questions on the hydrants?
How long does it take for you to get them these days?
The man that we buy them from is Ferguson Waterworks. He said it would take a couple weeks.
That's good. Consent?
Consent, please.
Consent, everybody? Okay.
You good? Okay, thank you. All right, next on the list is water meters and check valves. So these are, these water meters are, when the developer builds something, they have to come and get a meter from them. They need to have more on stock. They've been purchasing them in lots of 25, but, you know, to keep it under Danny's budget limit, whatever, but they really need to have more in stock, and that, so we went out with a quote. We actually got a quote better than what it cost to buy them in smaller lots. So this is to buy 200, a lot of 200. So in the quotes, $57,500.
Is that enough to have on hand? You got someone on hand already, I guess.
Bull?
We got about 30 meters in stock now, but you got the cottages going in, and that's over 300 meters.
Right.
And I put 3 orders in since February, and I got 2 of them, still waiting on one. Well, Delta told us that it could be up to October before we receive any meters.
So do you think we need to up it to more than 200 meters?
It probably wouldn't be a bad idea, Mr. Danny.
I believe one time years ago, we spent over 100,000 to order a bunch.
And it was 400 for Walton County.
Yeah.
I mean, Gwinnett,
Yeah.
it's lost.
Because Delta is the only one that has these meters in the state of Georgia, and everybody wanting them, like Monroe, Walton County, all the surrounding cities.
Would you
And
like
the
me to get a
county.
price for 400 meters by Thursday? And we can hold off on consent?
We're gonna need them pretty soon.
Okay. Can you give me a quote, hopefully by Thursday, Brandon? Will? Thank you.
So this is for 200.
Yes.
See if you can get 400 for 60,000.
How many building do we have going the next 14, 16 months?
Good many.
He just said the cottages was gonna take 300 meters.
I know.
Yeah.
But what's the time frame on the cottages being?
They said they're gonna be built within a year.
Brass is getting harder to order. That's another big issue. is
I
the
know, and
brass.
interest rates are going up and the market's slowing, and I don't want to have 200 meters sitting on the shelf for a cost of X number of dollars if they sit for 2 years. I'm just thinking about cash flow, that's all.
Yes, Tim will answer that. I don't think we have an issue with 400.
So on top of the cottages, we still have Phase 4 of Logan Point. We have Logan Point Townhomes. We have Claude Brewer subdivision and Logan Miami, as well as finishing up Eleanor subdivision. So I don't think they would have a problem getting rid of 400 meters.
Okay.
We should come back with a couple, 400, 500, just to kind of,
I'm sorry, what's that?
maybe come back with 400 and then maybe 500, just, I mean, while we're doing it.
Yeah, we'll see what the price break is. If it's the same price for 2 as it is 3 or 4, we'll see.
Okay.
All right, we'll hold that one, thank you. So the next on our list is our annual drinking water testing charges that are done by the state. The testing is done to keep us in compliance with state requirements. It's a budgeted item, it's $10,640. Any questions? So, would like to put that on consent?
Yep.
All righty,
Sent for everybody?
thank you. All right, and then the last thing on our list is the IGA for another T-Splost. So, you know, we've talked about it, we certainly, transportation and traffic is our, I won't say our biggest, but a very big concern with our city. And certainly the most costly. But what, the county called a meeting between the county and the cities, and the meeting was in May 17th. They talked about moving forward with the T-Splosh to go on a referendum for this November election. They've settled on a 1% sales tax, and then this will be, of course, like I said, it's on the November election. If for instance, it passes the vote, then they would start collecting in April 1st of 2023. It's 5 years, so that would go through March 31st of 2028. Now, so what do we get from it? Well, everybody that drives through, pays and buys anything in our county, there'll be 1% goes to this program. And they're estimating for our county and our taxes that the total amount would be about 80 million. Of that, Walton County, you know, outside of administration fees that is required, I think there's 1% that goes to the state. But basically about 66% goes to Walton County. Of course, obviously, that's the biggest land area. 14% or so goes to Monroe, but they do it by population. 11.223% goes to 2337% goes to our city, which over that 5-year period would be approximately 8.9 million. Now, depending on the sales, the amount of revenue received, it could be lower or higher. But that just means it would be ratioed at that same percent that's agreed upon in this IGA. There again, all we're doing is saying that we agree with the IGA, that we want this to be on the ballot with all the other cities, and the voters will decide whether or not we'll have this available. We didn't count our chickens before they hatched, but it certainly does a lot for us to help get some of our projects that we have on the books that we want to move forward with. With that, is there any questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions. The deadline is coming up for this, correct, very soon?
Correct.
So there's probably no more negotiating time with other cities or anything?
So,
Correct.
Pretty correct.
Yeah.
So as that's the thing, as we were voting on this, this goes back to, we've got to give it approved to get back to Walton County so that they can bring it to vote, and then it'd be in August, on their August.
And they looked at the percentage purely on population, not us being the retail center of Walton County.
Two different things, yeah.
Yeah.
This one's transportation.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dan.
We had long meetings, all the cities, most of the mayors were all there, and the 3 city managers and the county manager were there, and we did go down that presentation with digest versus population percentages, but we all kind of agreed that on this T-Splosh, we would go with percentage, but lost is, which is local option sales tax, is right around the corner, and
Yeah.
we are already in the midst of preparing for that,
So we'll be pushing for digest a lot.
possibly.
Okay. Good.
But this is, SPOS is a county call tax. It is a county tax. It has to be, 30% of this has to be on system projects, which are considered state routes, and then the rest. Now, we did come to an agreement with the county in section 7.4, where the possibility of doing joint projects as far as paving with the county's resources and maybe the city's buying the asphalt like we do with the LMIG, that could be talked about. We also talked about joint striping projects, joint patch and milling to get a better unit price. We did that 2 years ago, I believe, 3 years ago with LMIG for patching and
Striping.
striping. We did intersection of 20 in front of the library.
Yeah.
So the county did agree to put that in there as their kind of give, I guess you would take. But
Okay.
yes, all the cities came to an agreement that we were okay. The percentages did go up just maybe a percent because it's the 2020 census numbers, and they do redact the Gwinnett side of the city. So
Okay.
we lost 3,700 population from that number.
Yeah, if you are studying these numbers, we only count for this, the residents in Walton County.
Yeah, it has to be in the special district, which in this case is Walton.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is there going to be a tax that's rolling off, or will we go up to 8% sales tax if this passes?
It'd be 8% sales
Okay.
tax. Yes, and while I'm talking, we did, I know the mayor and I don't want to speak for any other city, but there was another city that had concern with doing 0.5%. I felt it was, I'd rather get a little bit something than everything, but like there again, the county was agreement that 1% would be what they were going to go for. Fair statement, Mayor?
It's fair. But I gotta tell you, this was voted down the last time it came up. And Loganville was one of the ones that didn't get 50% of the votes in our area. But if you're looking at transportation, without this, we've got a much tougher road to hoe than with it. The state treats you differently. You're not eligible for some projects that you might would have been eligible for with T-Splosh. I've heard it said that in some cases, the folks at the state feel like if you don't vote for these funds, you're okay with the transportation the way it is now. And if that's true, vote against it. But if you're not happy with the transportation situation in our city, then do what you need to do. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I would like to clarify also for, we only have 2 citizens here tonight, but also we have people watching on YouTube that if you look at the Schedule A, which is page 38, it talks about the projects. The reason we don't put specific projects, like there is a project you noticed from the ARC grant we did with the roundabout Highway 81 in front of Meridian Park. The reason we don't put that on here, let's say that we put that project, designate that. If the state of Georgia, who owns that road, says, you know what, we're not putting that there, that money is locked forever. I could never use that money anywhere else. So we put generalized projects that way. If we ask for Highway 78, say at 81 South, and they say no, then we can just shift that money to somewhere else. So it's hard to dedicate projects when you don't own the roads. But roads that we do own, that's up to y'all's discretion. So that's why you see, we said joint state county transportation projects. Those are stuff like maybe new red light signals on state routes, asphalt, resurfacing sidewalks, that's repaving, adding new sidewalks, and then just general transportation. It kind of gives us leeway that y'all, because in 5 years, your needs, our needs may change. So that's why they're generalized, is to protect our money. And then if you look on page 39, you'll see where the county says that if this produces 80 million, they're projecting another 100 million from the state to be almost a 1-to-1 ratio. And that is true, that they do tell us that if you can put money towards it, you get higher up on the rank. Similar to what we did here with C.S. Floyd. We put funds towards that. But we do have $46 million worth of projects and currently have $3 million for transportation. Or give or take a few.
Expensive endeavor.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, no more questions?
No. I do, but I don't want to put the cart before the horse, because it might not even matter if it doesn't pass.
Right.
But I know sidewalks has been a big concern of mine and others, especially when I was campaigning. And if we don't get the 3.5, that could potentially go to that and the asphalt resurfacing. I just don't see us being able to, especially with the ADA compliance now with sidewalks. This worries me.
I think it worries us all.
Yeah.
But we won't know whether this is going to be approved or not until after November the 8th, as I recall. November the 8th.
After the referendum.
Okay, everybody got any more questions? We need to put this on consent?
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody okay with that? Okay. Answer if you need it. No?
No.
Thank you, Bill. We'll move on to economic development. Brandon Whitfield.
I have no actionable items tonight, but Groovin' on the Green is this Friday with Departure, the Journey Tribute Band. Get there early because that is one of our most popular bands that comes. And we're gonna have to play with it when it comes to weather, if we need to.
You want to mention that downtown, a couple of places?
Do what?
You want to mention those downtown, a couple of shops?
No, not talking anything more hard on it.
Okay, you got it. Okay, thank you, Brandon. We'll move to city manager's report.
Me and
Danny
the city
Roberts.
attorney have nothing.
Okay. For Thursday night, we have some items that we need to look at as far as the finance, meeting minutes, call meeting minutes, financial report, and are we gonna have somebody here to do an audit presentation?
Yes, I believe Ken will be here.
Okay,
The
so
audit.
we'll have a presenter for the audit presentation. Okay? Does the council want to put the other things on consent?
Yeah, I looked at the minutes, I'm okay with it.
Okay, so those things on consent as well?
I'll be okay with A through D being on the, I know the audit presentations, but
Got to be here, yeah. So the first 4 items,
I'm okay with those on consent.
you got that okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else? If there's
Yes.
nothing, okay.
Today's Brandon's birthday,
Oh, that's right.
Oh, my God.
so we need to sing to him.
I don't know about that.
You don't have any choice in the matter.
I guess not.
Guess not.
I think all of us can recognize when somebody turns 34, they own the downhill slide of the big mountain, aren't they? It gets a lot worse after that, but you think we could have the management of the police department lead us in a happy birthday, guys? Yes, we do. We need a good laugh. Okay, fair enough. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Do we?
I mean,
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Does anybody here want to lead the happy birthday?
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brandon. Happy birthday to you. And many more. Okay, thanks everybody for being here and have a great night.